And I want to thank you all for making tonight a priority in your plans and your schedule, and not making my worst nightmare of doing an event and not having anybody show up not come true. This is a great turnout. We are so excited at the Alliance to be able to present this forum here in our district and give you the opportunity to actually hear the candidates for yourselves, ask the questions, and then hear how each one of them will respond to the same question. It is important. I don't know if all of you know this, but our district is one of the lowest voting turnout districts in the city of Buffalo. And we really believe that it doesn't matter who you vote for, well it does ultimately, but we don't care who you vote for, we just want you to go and vote. And please remember, tomorrow is the start of early voting. So get out early, do it. If you know who you're gonna vote for, go and make that vote count tomorrow morning. And then beat the crowds in 10 days or so. We are very blessed to have a lot of volunteers, including members of my board of directors. Can you guys all raise your hand? Because without my board members, we would not be able to do forums like this. They are wonderfully supportive when I come up with this idea and say, hey, let's just do a forum for the mayoral candidates. They're like, do you know how to do that? I'm like, no, but why not try? They're like, okay, let's do it. And they're all in it, and then they all show up, which is great. I'm very fortunate to have a board that's that dedicated to this community. I'm going to turn the microphone over to, I want to thank the candidates as well, last but not least, and the League of Women Voters. Today, we have invited them to partner with us because if anybody can manage a forum like this, it's the League of Women Voters. They do this all the time. They are the experts at it. They're picking up on things that I am not capable of doing. So we know that this is going to be nonpartisan and really well run. Timothy is our moderator for the day, and he is going to do the rules for both the candidates and a little explanation about the forum. And we are inviting questions. We took questions in advance online, as some of you may have already done, but we also are taking questions from the audience. There are people walking around with aprons on, my volunteers. They will take your questions, write them down on a card, hold up the card, they'll come and collect them and then bring them over here where they'll be compiled into categories, and then as time allows, we'll ask as many as we possibly can. So again, thank you for making this a priority. We really appreciate you being here.
My name is Timothy Piano from the League of Women Voters of Buffalo, Niagara. The League is delighted to be here again this year. All candidates for the mayor of Buffalo are invited to participate in tonight's forum. The traditional Republican candidates forum is a long one for the League. 4 candidates are running for the mayor, or the primary for the mayor of the city of Buffalo for a 4-year term. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that encourages informed and active participation in citizens in government. The League works to influence public policy through education and advocacy. Moderating candidate forum is one of our many functions. Membership is open to everyone. Learn more about the League at our website, lwvbn.org, or on Facebook. The ground rules for the candidates forum. Presentations should be strictly confined to issues, not personalities. The League of Women Voters emphasizes maintaining a respectful and nonpartisan atmosphere in their forums, which includes personal attacks or out of discussion. Focus on issues, not individuals. LWV forums are designed to help voters understand the candidates' positions on issues. They strive to keep the discourse focused on policy and relevant matters rather than personal attacks or character assassinations. Respectful tone to maintain a respectful even when disagreeing, and to focus on challenging ideas, not a person's character. Ultimately, the League of Women Voters aim to create a fair and informative environment where candidates can present their views on issues without resorting to personal attacks, enabling voters to make informed decisions. Moderators have the authority to interrupt candidates who violate forum rules, such as making personal references about other candidates and can stop the event. The order of opening statements have been determined by the candidates drawn for the position this evening. This event will end at 8:30 p.m. The Alliance is making the only authorized recording of this event. This event is being recorded and the link will be made available on their YouTube channel. It may only be broadcast in its entirety. Only licensed media, including TV and radio and newspapers, are entitled to air the portions of the recording. In keeping with the Federal Communication Commission, FCC regulations, all others who air this recording may do so only in its entirety. No one is permitted to publicly display edited footage in any manner. We request that audience members turn off their cell phones at this time. Keep them turned off throughout the event. We also request that you refrain from applause until the forum is completed. We seek to provide the candidates with the greatest amount of time to respond to the questions. Tonight's format, Roy Robinson in the front will raise a green paddle when the speaker has 1 minute left, a yellow paddle when there's 15 seconds left, and a red paddle to stop when time is expired. The candidates are expected to stop when completing the sentence being spoken at the time. Opening statements, each candidate should have 2 minutes for an opening statement. Biographical sketches and platform outlines are usually presented. Audience questions, each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. To my left, I have Ramona Gallagher, who will be screening the questions for vulgarity, profanity, appropriateness, and redundancy. The questions must be directed to all candidates. There are questions that have been submitted in advance. We will alternate between the questions and questions submitted in tonight's audience. The ushers will distribute and collect cards for use to write the questions. They will bring the questions to the screener. Questions will be asked of the candidate in a rotating order. The next candidate may answer as soon as the previous candidate has finished. I'll be happy to repeat any question when needed. Closing candidate, each candidate shall have 2 minutes for a closing statement to summarize their thoughts and reiterate points throughout the meeting. This forum is designated as a dialogue between the audience and the candidate. It is not a debate. I will announce each candidate's name only for the opening statements. I will reintroduce the candidates in reverse order for the concluding statements. We will now begin with opening statements from Christopher Scanlon.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the League of Women Voters. I want to thank Ann McCoo and the Black Rock Riverside Alliance for putting this together. And I want to thank all of you for coming out. It's one of the first nice nights we've had this year, and there's a lot of things you can be doing. So I want to thank you for taking time coming out and hearing from myself and the other candidates. It's extremely important that you hear from all of us. So I'm often asked, why do you want to run for mayor? And when I'm asked that, the second half of the question is typically when the city of Buffalo has so many issues. And I say because when the city of Buffalo has so many challenges. And I tell people that's the reason I want to, because of those challenges. I view those challenges as opportunities for us to get better. And I think that working through partnerships that I've established over my time in office and ones we've already established during my time as mayor, we'll be able to address those challenges. Whether that's working with our private sector partners, our public sector partners, our government partners at the county, state, and federal level, and in particular with our residents, making sure that we're all on the same page. That's one thing I'm focused on, is communicating with our community. We've put together advisory groups with small business, with clergy, with new Americans, to make sure that we're hearing from people so we know what they're dealing with on a regular basis. And I want to make sure that we're communicating and fostering those relationships to a mutually agreed upon goal. And during my time in office, and in particular my time as mayor, the last 8 months, I think we've been very successful. We've begun to address the financial situation the city's facing. We're working on housing and affordable housing units for people, in particular, a way to put people in homes and create home ownership opportunities. We continue to make our streets safer. We've introduced a walking patrol program, the Foot Patrol Integration Unit, where our officers are out interacting with our residents, our commercial corridor, business owners, and trying to get feedback from them and building relationships between policing and our residents. Giving out a survey so we can hear. One thing we've heard from people for years is that what they want to say in our policing, and that's what we're giving to them now, and I see that my time is now up, so thank you.
Garnell Whitfield.
I too want to thank all of you for being here this evening. I know you took time out of your busy day to be here, and I know you're very concerned about the condition of the city of Buffalo, your neighborhoods, and the lives of people, your neighbors and your families. Listen, you hear a lot about the condition of the city of Buffalo. I live around the corner here, and I see the progress in this community, and I want to applaud you all, Black Rock and Riverside Associates, for the work that you have done already. I believe that you deserve the support. I believe that you deserve the help of the city, of the government, of the mayor, and I believe that you have the solution to your issues in your community within your hands. I think that you hear a lot about new initiatives and all of these things in Buffalo. I think that what's happened in Buffalo, Buffalo is underutilized and mismanaged. We have resources that are available to us that have not been brought to bear on behalf of the residents of this community. I think they've been given away to people outside of this community, people who do not have the best interests of this community at heart. I'm running for mayor not because it's a career move for me. I'm running for mayor because I believe that we can and should do much better. And I think that when we talk about better, in this particular instance, better is a pretty low bar considering where we are right now. So I think we deserve excellence. I think we deserve brilliance. I think we should be good, brilliant at the basic things. I think we deserve that, and I think that together we can accomplish that. Thank you.
Sean Ryan.
Thanks everybody for being here today. I'm running for mayor because Buffalo deserves better. Somewhere in the last decade or so, we've lost track of how to do the basics in the city of Buffalo. We don't fill our potholes. We don't plow our streets. We don't open our pools. Our community centers are falling into disarray. So we have a lot of work to do just to get the basics right. But the citizens of the city of Buffalo, they deserve to have the basics done right. You shouldn't have to call 311 for the basic stuff. So besides getting the basics right, we have to take on our big, tough problems in the city of Buffalo. The east side of Buffalo has been disinvested. It's been disregarded for years. Every condition in the east side of Buffalo is worse than the rest of the Buffalo. More potholes, worse conditions, income lower, black home ownership rate low. No steady plan from the city of Buffalo of how to improve housing. I have a plan that I've gotten funded for 2 years in a row that's going to put more apartments online. It's going to get people into single families and doubles on the vacant lots that the city has bulldozed houses down on. It's a plan that's going to restore our neighborhoods. But we have to be able to walk and chew gum. We have to be able to take on the basics, but also tackle the big, tough problems. I am going to do that. We need a new direction in City Hall. I have the experience, and I plan on bringing this city in a new direction. Thank you.
Michael Gaines.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Gaynor, and I am an East Side resident for the last 20 years. I've been here in Buffalo, one of the few candidates, maybe the only candidate that wasn't born here in Buffalo. But it's a city that, does it not work? It's a city that, there we go, I feel very passionately about. I moved here after living in many different cities across the country, and I moved here because of the potential and the power of the ideas that I saw here and the people here. And when I spent some time just before this forum reading about the Black Rock Riverside Alliance and seeing their vision for quality of life, for social capital, for greening, and this thing is going to fight me all night, but I was really inspired because for me, it is, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Leave it at home.
Yeah, leave it home.
I don't think it's there, okay. So, I was pretty inspired. Can I use yours? Sure. Thanks, Sean. pretty inspired by the work of this community, because for me, the work of our community should be our guiding purpose. As leaders, as elected officials, we should be guided by the vision and by the power of the community and the residents that live here. Okay? I'm running as mayor because for the last 20 years, I've been working on initiatives, I've been working on projects, I've been driving positive community changes in my neighborhood, and I've met nothing but opposition from the very people that are supposed to be elevating the best ideas. They're supposed to be elevating the best leaders and the best projects and the best possibilities. I see that potential here in Black Rock Riverside. I see that as I drive across the streets. I see it in the program, the vision that you have for the habitat programs, for your social capital and supporting not-for-profits. And I see it in your support for small businesses. And we have to bring that same focus and emphasis to City Hall to make things happen. I've done that through Buffalo Reuse and addressing the vacant housing issue here in Buffalo. I've done it through the Foundry, where we supported small businesses. And I've done it through the Eastside Parkways Coalition, where we had a vision for something great. We had a vision for something that would be a world-class treasure for our city and also work to transform neighborhoods. And that's what our city needs. It needs a big picture vision and it needs a transformation. We need to be thinking big and we need to be driving towards big ideas, and then we have to be doing that by elevating the best ideas and the best people that are already here in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll start off with our first question. We'll start at the top of the table with Chris Scanlon. Our first question, and I will repeat this as you go forward. Give us a song title or a movie title that depicts what your leadership and management style will be as mayor. And how does that speak to the plans that you have strengthened the connection between City Hall and the residents in a more open and transparent way?
Well, I've got 3 little kids, 10, 8, and 4, so stuck with a lot of Disney movies on a regular basis. So I'll go with You've Got a Friend in Me. You know, one thing I'm focused on, and I talk about it all day, every day at City Hall, is establishing partnerships and making sure that we're collaborating, like I said, with our different levels of government, our nonprofit organizations, our private partners, private sector partners, and our residents. And like I said, unfortunately, I'm kind of repeating myself in the opening, but we have quickly established advisory groups at every different level, small business, larger business, our new Americans, our clergy, to make sure that we're in constant communication with our community. This is the information that should be driving it. Michael mentioned it too. We should be talking to our community on a regular basis, not dictating to them what's going on in their neighborhood. Here's what we're going to do in your neighborhood. It should be, what do you want to see in your neighborhood? What's needed in your neighborhood? Our planners are out doing that now. Our Office of Strategic Planning has set up meetings up across the city to go out and talk to people, because we have to have that feedback in order to dictate and drive policy. That's what you're going to see, and I touched on the walking patrol at the police department. That's what's going to happen with our public safety. We want to hear from people about policing's impacting them, what they want to see from our policing, and we'll continue to go from there, listening to our partners in the neighborhoods all across the city of Buffalo, and continue to partner with them towards a better Buffalo.
Favorite song? Go for it. Okay, I'm gonna pick Marvin Gaye. What's going on? Listen, I think that we have to ask.
Get him a microphone.
I think we have to be willing to ask hard questions. We have to be willing to hold people accountable. We have to understand how we got here. Those questions are not being asked and they're not being answered. And until those questions are asked and answered, it's impossible to have a plan that that's going to be successful going forward. You're just building your house in sand, and you're going to get the same thing you've always gotten. Because until we're willing to be held accountable, until we as leaders are willing to be held accountable, nothing's going to change. So we have to ask hard questions. We have to be willing to be held accountable. We have to be willing to be convicted even as a part of the problem when that happens. And that's how you lead. I think that has not happened yet. And so we're going to hear about all kinds of things, dreams and aspirations tonight. But the questions have not been asked and answered. And that's why I picked what's going on, because it's asking the right questions.
So I'll go back to an old-timey movie, It's a Wonderful Life. And in that movie, you had a town that had all these great attributes, but you also had the sort of mean old banker running the town and trying to keep the whole town down. You know, I feel throughout my adult life in Buffalo, there's been a group of people who are very instrumental in running City Hall, but they run it for their own benefit, not the benefit of the entire city. And until we get free of those old parochial influences, until we get free of a government, that serves you better because you know a guy, or your zip code is different than somebody else's, we're going to be stuck in this sort of, we're almost there, but we're not all the way there. So my government is going to be about accessibility and accountability. Everybody will be treated equally in the city of Buffalo, regardless of your income level, regardless of your zip code. But I will also be accountable. The buck stops with the mayor of the city of Buffalo. If I make mistakes, I will cop to those mistakes. We will learn from those mistakes, and we will move forward. The city has become really allergic to any accountability. But we're going to make goals. We're going to meet our goals. We're going to make goals about home ownership rates. We're going to make goals about bringing down childhood lead poisoning. We're going to make goals about reusing our vacant lots. And they're going to be public, they're going to be transparent, and everyone's going to be able to see it, and everyone will be able to figure out if the city is serving them well or not.
All right, we're going to test this microphone. I'm not going to touch it this time. I've got two songs, and I don't know if they're my favorite, but my daughter and I have been really jiving to this Bill Withers song lately, Lovely Day. And I have to say that, part of our vision has to be how we can all live in healthy, safe, vibrant, vital, communities. I have the privilege of frequenting Elmwood, and for the last 6 weeks I've been walking Elmwood predominantly because I've been getting signatures for my independent ballot line called Restore Buffalo, so you will not see us in the Democratic Party line, but you will see us in November. And I've been working with Betty Jean Grant on that. She'll be running for county legislator. And I realized that through this petitioning, there really is only one lovely neighborhood that's walkable, that provides all of these things. Now, I love Amherst Street, I love Jefferson Avenue, but I want communities that are fully serviceable, where you can walk to a healthy grocery store, to a market, where you can get flowers, where there's a community center for the kids, a place where teenagers can hang out and have support, a child care center, all of these types of things that contribute to health and green space and trees. The one thing that was most noticeable about driving down Amherst and driving down Niagara was the lack of trees. One of my platform, you'll read it in my platform, is we're going to plant 100,000 trees in this city in the next 10 years. And you say, well, how can that be done? It can be done because you set a vision to do it. And you mobilize volunteers, and we're going to start an effort called City Action Corps, which is going to mobilize our young adults who are out of school and out of work. And we're going to put people to work in our neighborhoods to make sure that every community gets to benefit and enjoy a lovely day.
Thank you. Our second question this evening will be an issue regarding quality of life issues. And this will be started off with Garnell to start this question. Litter and illegal dumping is a huge problem here in the North District and citywide. What is your plan to change the culture of litter and illegal dumping in the city of Buffalo?
Thank you. I think first and foremost that the city has to do a better job in policing these things and monitoring them. We have cameras all over the city. We have police officers. we have first responders, we have people that are on duty 24/7 in the city of Buffalo. We need to use them creatively, I believe, to monitor this illegal dumping, partner with the community, with the neighbors in the community, make sure that you have a relationship with them, a rapport with them, with the different leaders and groups within that community, and make yourself available to help with this issue. I think that it's an issue that's been ignored. That's why it's proliferated. I believe that when given proper attention, these things can be easily mitigated. They just have to be prioritized by the mayor's office. So I'm looking forward to working with this group and others across the city to address these, quality of life issues in real time. I know I myself am frustrated calling 311 and other numbers or whatever to look for help and to get help, and I'm not getting it in my own life. And so I know how you feel about that. I was one of the persons actually that helped began this back and forth with the community, with the public, as a commissioner of fire, setting up call lines and things like that, where you could bring your complaints and concerns forward, but have them addressed, not to be ignored. So I look forward to participating with you in this effort to clean up the city. I think that together we can do that. It's going to take the involvement of you as residents. It's going to take your input, but you're going to get my support. Thank you.
Sure. Littering really gives a sense of people don't care about your community. I was on Jefferson Avenue today talking to business owners, and they made a plea: can we get more garbage cans on Jefferson Avenue? And if we get them, can we make sure the city comes and empties them? There was a man walking down Jefferson Avenue today with a 5-gallon bucket and a little pickup stick, and I said, is this one of your businesses? He said, no, I live in this community. I got to make sure it's cleaned up because the city's not sending street sweepers down. I'm picking it up myself. And I couldn't believe what this man was doing all by himself. But when my office was on Grant Street, we ran an active Pick Up Grant Street campaign. I met with every business owner, gave them a broom and a dustpan on a stick, and we asked every business owner, will everyone pledge every morning before you open, will you sweep in front of your building, and before you close, will you do the same thing? And we got everyone on board. It was tough working with the city because we got them to put garbage cans in, but they wouldn't empty them. So we kept working on that. And the vacant lot issue with the dumping, there's so many vacant lots and they're not taken care of, and there's no policy on how to take care of them. We need to take a page out of what happens in Philadelphia. Every vacant lot owned by the city of Philadelphia has a simple split rail fence on it. Prevents anyone from driving a truck up there to dump on, but also they have a policy of every 13 days, each lot is mowed. And it looks more like a lawn and less like a vacant place. And it gives people in the community a sense of value, in the sense that the city, sort of on a crazy demolition policy for too long, actually cares about the communities, and that's what we need to convey.
We've had a big problem with illegal dumping. My store is on the east side of Buffalo at 980 Northampton Street, and our warehouse is on Colorado. And it's kind of the broken window theory as it pertains to our neighborhoods. If there is one bag of trash there, the U-Haul will stop and dump, and then the next truck will stop and dump more. And it really requires a focus and a diligence and a cultural shift. I've had many conversations with city staff at Public Works. I've had individual conversations with police officers during their clean sweeps, and about conversations with the real estate department. And what there is everybody's trying to solve this problem in their own silos, and there's not a collective strategy and focus and a policy approach to how we're going to solve the issue with illegal dumping. Police do not enforce illegal dumping. The district attorney will not prosecute illegal dumping. We have tried, we have pushed the effort, it does not happen. And when you approach and you talk to these different silos at City Hall, nobody seems to know or understand what the other group is doing. And it leads to miscommunication, and it leads to misdirection, and it leads to overall lack of compliance. So the first thing is to get everybody on the same page about how we're going to approach it. The second is how we think about vacant properties in general in this city and how we come up with a vision for how we're going to transform those into vibrant community spaces. I have a plan to basically transform 350 acres, which is 5,000 vacant lots, into vibrant community spaces. Now, they may not be community gardens. There could be 50 lots that are used for raising plants or trees that we're going to use to regreen the city. But we also have to help make vacant lots more accessible to people that are trying to buy them, people that want to develop those for vacant properties and lots, and that's, again, a breakdown at City Hall in the Office of Real Estate. So thank you.
Thank you. So when it comes to illegal dumping, it's about enforcement, it's about partnership, and then a commitment to it. Enforcement, our Department of Permits and Inspections, police, we have them out there looking for this. We're looking to partner with as many neighbors as we can. We are installing as many cameras as we can. Obviously, those are expensive. Year after year, we're investing in them. We'll continue to invest in those cameras. We also want to partner with our neighbors throughout the city of Buffalo through our Safe Cam program to access those cameras. If we don't know who's doing it, if we find the pile after the fact, we can't hold them accountable. So it's about enforcement on that end, and when it comes to fines, making sure that the fines stick and that people are concerned about it. Ultimately, the vast majority of the time, that's what changes someone's behavior. But it's about partnerships with our community as well, and commitment. I recently launched the Keep Buffalo Beautiful program. A little play on the name from the Keep Buffalo a Secret from Oxford Pennant, but we got there okay first before we did it. But we've invested in our impact team, and we have strategically have groups going out on commercial corridors, keeping them clean multiple times a week. But also when you're dealing with the city of Buffalo, Michael's right. Traditionally, the departments have operated in silos. I've worked in the city government as a city councilman. It's been difficult to get them on the same page. Early on as mayor, I launched the Office of Innovation, which has now brought an innovation lead from each department into the fold, where they are now breaking down those processes and breaking down the walls of those silos to streamline our operations and make sure that anyone that's dealing with the city of Buffalo, things that are happening in a much more timely fashion, because traditionally it has been a problem. But since I've become mayor, I certainly think we've started to break down those walls and make dealing with the city of Buffalo much easier.
Thank you. For the audience, please silence your phones. It's distracting to the candidates with buzzers going off and beeps. Thank you. Our next question will be directed to Sean to start with this one. Several large developers have recently gone on the record to say they are slowing down or halting projects that have bought homes, businesses, and revitalizing areas to need. Many of these have involved older buildings that have been vacant for years and now deteriorating and will only continue to do so if left as is. What is your plan to move projects like these forward and get them to complete and meet housing needs, stimulate the economic development in underinvested communities like the North District, and keep abandoned, unsafe structures from continuing to be the norm?
So I think I would split that into two answers. One is, we have the New York State Historic Tax Credit, which I worked very hard to implement and update. It gives a big tax credit if you take a historic building and redo it rather than knocking it down. So that program has been wildly successful, whether it's the Richardson Hotel, the Lafayette Hotel, downtown. Almost every historic redo you've seen has been because of that project. But my focus is going to be more on neighborhoods. We have neighborhoods around the city that are all under stress. Buffalo loves its neighborhoods, but our neighborhoods, need some love. That's why my housing plan is going to be focused on just a few things. We got to keep people in their homes. If people are facing eviction for a small amount of money, it's way more efficient and it's way better for society to help pay that back rent. We have 4,000 vacant units in the city of Buffalo in doubles right now, mostly owned by seniors. We got to make sure we get those units back online. I created a program today. I was over at Kearns Avenue today where we saw the first part of this program going into effect. 2 units above the bowling alley are going to go back online to be affordable units for the city residents of the city of Buffalo. And then the hallmark of the program is the block by block section. And that will put new homes, not rentals, not apartment buildings, singles and doubles on the gaps that the city has created, by their really aggressive demolition policy over the years. So everybody knows blocks with gaps on them. People want neighbors back on those blocks. We're going to fill those houses with people who live in the community and can be affordable for the people in the community. So those are my housing platforms, and that gets you on to the importance of making sure we have several neighborhood plans going at the same time.
So I think that it really has to be about building our capacity as a city. And when I think about capacity, I think about, first of all, a vision to bring more people to our city. Our city's population has largely been declining for the last 75 years. We had a population of around 600,000, and now it's hovering around 260,000. And over the last 10 years, it's increased a few thousand and decreased a few thousand. But in general, we have a city with an amazing resource, right? We have largely affordable housing. We have amazing green space, an entrepreneurial sector. We have a lot of great things that are going here. We have to advertise to the world to bring more people to this city. And we have to be more proactive about supporting the businesses that are here and incentivizing new businesses that want to be here. Because we all have a lot to offer. I think that as an outsider, I see all of the amazing things about Buffalo when I come here. But I think that sometimes people that have been here a long time, and I actually encountered this when I was starting with Buffalo Reuse, it's like, oh, that'll never happen. People have tried it. So why don't we just set a vision to increase our population 50,000 in the next 10 years? It can happen. And in so doing, we bring more creative capacity here, we bring more entrepreneurs here, we bring and grow our tax base. And I think that we have to have a focus on not just supporting the big developers. I'm a developer myself, so I've got a construction company. I'm not anti-development. But we have to think about how we increase the capacity of our smaller development communities. And we've seen that through the Monroe Building and some of these smaller scale developments all across city that are leveraging some state tax breaks, but they're also leveraging the human capacity and the vision and the hard work of the people that are making that project work, because they want to see it work, because they have a personal investment in having it be successful. We have to throw our weight behind those good ideas and throw our weight behind a vision that grows the city and brings more entrepreneurs to Buffalo.
So to the question about the troubles that developers are having, obviously, the world around us is creating a lot of that, right? Cost of construction, market, lack of people lending money, things like that. So it's becoming a problem for that type of development. So we do have to focus on our neighborhoods. One thing we've done is trying to make sure that we're streamlining all of our processes in the city of Buffalo. Again, it's been referenced several times how many vacant lots the city of Buffalo owns. We want to make sure we're moving those along as quickly as possible in people's hands if they want to build on them, if it's adjacent to your home. I can tell you that I've dealt with a lot of frustrated people over the years that would say, I want to buy this lot adjacent to my house, and it's taken me 2 years to deal with real estate. That's no longer the case. I hired a new director of real estate, and she has revamped that entire process. So it's much more streamlined now. But also, we do have to focus on those large development projects, things like that. If we don't, and the properties in downtown Buffalo become vacant, lose their value, that tax burden is going to be spread out to the neighborhoods. And we cannot allow that to happen. So we've got to maintain that value in our downtown core. So we'll continue to work with those developers. We've established groups down there working alongside other existing organizations. We've tried to get people to come back to work. I can tell you that the first thing I did when I became mayor was tell everyone I want them back in contributing to the vibrancy of downtown. We've met with a number of the large employers downtown. They're starting to require people to come back. If you see parking usage and parking ramps, that's creeping up. It's all a good sign. You see some more large-scale employers moving into downtown. And if we have to, we'll talk to our partners in government and see what we can do about converting some of that office space into residential space to make sure we have more people living downtown so it's vibrant. And give them a reason to be there. Working with our partners, the Chippewa Alliance, others like that, to make sure there's a reason for people, if they're not going to work, come into work that day, or if they want to live down there because there's things to do during and after work.
Yeah, thank you. So the question was about the developers having issues, having some problems. I think that we have focused a lot on developers over the years. There's a number of these projects that we're talking about that the city of Buffalo has subsidized and invested in and have never ever panned out. They have never been what they're supposed to be. When you talk about downtown being the core, there's a reason why downtown is failing. It's not because of COVID. This is not a new phenomenon. We had an opportunity to have the University of Buffalo downtown. We had an opportunity to have a stadium downtown. We had an opportunity to redo the 33, the Kensington, and all of these. These are generational, transformational projects. And we have had leadership in place over the years that has not made good decisions, not made decisions that are in the best interest of this community. If any one of those projects would have been followed through on, they would have transformed not only downtown, but probably our entire city. And that's the truth of the matter. And so we always talk about new this and new that. We have misused and mismanaged our existing resources and opportunities. That has been done intentionally for generations. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity now to move in a different direction. This election is going to determine the efficacy of this community and this city for generations to come. We cannot miss this moment. It is too important. Anybody that tells you anything different is not being honest with you. So, we need housing. We need all those things. We need leadership. That's the problem. That's why we have the lots. That's why the downtown is failing. That's why the city of Buffalo is in the crisis it is, whether we're talking about the budget or housing or anything else. That's the truth of the matter. We have lacked leadership for generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris will have to be leading the forum. You can address.
Yeah, I'm terribly sorry. There's something that I have to go deal with. I'm terribly sorry. I just thank you all for coming out, letting me be here tonight. I greatly appreciate the opportunity. I'm terribly sorry that I have to leave a little early, but sorry. 13 years in government now. It's been the honor of my life to be able to represent people of Buffalo, to get up every day and to try and improve the lives of Buffalonians. And it's a responsibility that's not lost on me. It's something that I care deeply about, and something I want to continue to do well into the future. And I look forward to partnering with all of you well into the future. And I do apologize that I do have to step out. I'm very, very, very sorry.
Thank you. So we'll move to our next question, and this is going to with Michael. In 2017, Buffalo's Green Code was hailed as a precedent-setting for municipalities nationwide. Looking back at the 8 years of implementing this plan, do you think the Green Code is effective? If so, why? And if not, what would you change?
A lot of the founding principles of the Green Code I very much support, but on the implementation side, some of the things that I've seen and some of the variances that I've seen and some of the exemptions that I've seen are the things that I take issue with. I think that the Green Code is supposed to be a starting point. It's supposed to be a prescriptive document that helps to lay out principles of urban design and urban planning that help to strengthen our neighborhoods and build our capacities as local neighborhoods. And I think that the work that was done by the Green Code was well-intentioned and has, from a principle standpoint, it's very strong. I like the focus on density. I like the focus on commercial corridors. I like the focus and the design and the respect for preservation and architecture. What I don't like is us doing an end around when we have a preferred customer or client that we want to entice, that we allow to, I'll just point it out because it's on the tip of my tongue and it's making me crazy, is the new Starbucks that's at the corner of Utica and Elmwood. Next to it, they utilize 3 commercial lots, okay, to accommodate a drive-through. That is not in alliance with the intention of the Green Code. The Green Code is to support density. It's to support commercial vitality. And you do that through conscientious and thoughtful planning and design, and then you design businesses that support that around that. And that's what I was talking about. Healthy, serviceable, accessible business districts and communities. When we make exemptions, that deteriorates the strength and the vitality of our commercial districts, and that's just not in the best interest of what we need to do in the long term. So I want to see, wow, that went from a minute to 0 really quick. So anyway, I want to see more focus and intention on our neighborhoods and embrace the greatness of our neighborhoods to support our local businesses and create that accessibility for our communities.
Thank you. Yeah, listen, I agree with much of what Michael said. We have a number of opportunities, a number of laws on the books, in the city of Buffalo, but we don't adhere to them. We selectively, enforce them and selectively adhere to them when it's convenient, and that compromises the entire effort. When you're talking about density, these are things, if you understand European and models outside the city of Buffalo, density promotes, entrepreneurship. It promotes, vision. It promotes creativity. It promotes, when you have this density that he's referencing, it promotes a number of other things, quality of life issues, walkable communities. All of those things are tied to this, and we have not realized the benefit of having this code because we have not fully adhered or implemented it. And as he said also, it's just a start. It's not the end game, and we should be building on that. So I would suggest that we look outside of ourselves, look outside of the city of Buffalo, and find in other communities and other opportunities outside of, even the nation that we could replicate here to help improve the quality of life within our communities here in the city of Buffalo. Thank you.
So the zoning code is intended to let everybody know what the rules are and to give people consistency. If you buy a house in a neighborhood that's zoned residential, you know that something big can't go up next year. If you buy a building in a small business area, you know what the building size could be. So the Green Code was an effort to modernize the old code, but it almost doesn't matter because the city doesn't follow it. If you're an influential developer, if you give money to the mayor, you give money to the candidates, then you get all the variances you want. The regular guy trying to get by has to follow the rules. Not allowed to have drive-throughs on certain commercial strips in Buffalo. Well, if you're a certain developer who's been running Buffalo a long time, you get all the variances you want to allow that to happen. And the code is only good if it's consistently applied. And we still make this mistake of looking at every proposed development not as part of a plan for our city, but as like a one-off beauty contest. Do we like this project or not like it? Is the person connected or are they not connected? That's not how you're supposed to look at development in the city. It's supposed to give people this consistent idea. I bought this building, here's what I can do with it. But suddenly if the Green Code says 3 stories, you can get 5 or 6 stories if your project's big enough and you're connected enough. Or if the Green Code says buildings can only be this much in commercial length, well, if your project's big enough and you know the right people, you can pretty much do anything you want in the city of Buffalo. That doesn't serve us because it doesn't allow people to have the consistency of knowing what you can do. But right now we got it set up so most people have to follow the rules. Unless you're a contributor, then you don't have to follow any of the rules.
The next question will start at the top of the table. Last year, the city touted a snow management plan, and then residents were witness to the city being unable to adequately salt roads, plow drivers who did not plow curb to curb and side streets, and that were not even given a single pass for day after snow events. All these things created hazardous driving conditions on side streets due to inches of packed down ice over snow on roads until warmer weather assisted in melting it. What is your solution to correcting this so that all the streets will see a plow in a reasonable amount of time after a snowfall? And please define what do you feel is a reasonable time, and how will you address what issues that were used so widespread last year?
Thank you. You know what? It's amazing that in the city of Buffalo, we're having trouble plowing our streets. We're having trouble removing snow. I've been here my whole life. This is not something that's new. This is not rocket science. If you understand what's going on in the city of Buffalo, if you look at last year's budget, DPW turned in $2 million and said, oh, we were efficient, we did a great job. Well, where do you think that $2 million came from? It came from jobs, positions that were not filled. The money was recaptured by the city, by the administration, and then I don't know what with. But that's why the streets are not being plowed correctly. That's why, they're stretched. There's not enough people, there's not enough equipment, the equipment's not being maintained. After the blizzard of 2022, they had the audacity to say that there was no snow plan in the city of Buffalo. I've been here my whole life. I ran the blizzard of 2014, 7 feet of snow in South Buffalo, and blizzards going back to 1998. That is outrageous. There's a room full of plans on the shelf. They have to be updated annually as per the state of New York and the federal government. I did that during my career. I know that they're there. That's incompetence. That's all it is. It's a lack of experience and incompetence, and it's a shame that the citizens of this city have to put up with it. There is an answer to this. It's just about competence. It's just about having people with experience willing to do their jobs. And if you don't know what your job is, have the decency to learn. That's all this is about. This is not rocket science, guys. We can do snow. Thank you.
Sure, nothing is more basic than snow plowing in the city of Buffalo. I feel like I had amnesia some years. I remember when our streets were plowed. And this year I was in disbelief when I heard the city saying, we have this great new snow plowing plan. And the streets were worse than ever this year. I didn't see blacktop on my street for weeks. And you get yourself into this delusion until you drive over Kenmore Avenue and you see all the streets are curb to curb down to the blacktop. You think, oh, I guess somebody else knows how to handle the tough winter. But every year in Buffalo, it's like Groundhog's Day. It snows and the city says, oh my gosh, it's snowing, what do we do? And then springtime comes and our roads are full of potholes and we say, I can't believe it, we have roads full of potholes. We know how to do it. Talk to the people who drive the snowplows. They'll tell you how to do it. At the start of the winter storm that cost all those lives, 40% of the snowplows in the city of Buffalo were not operable. At the start of this winter season, 40% of the snowplows were not operable. The city didn't order salt this year because the last 2 winters were light, so we're not going to order salt. You don't have to look far. Go talk to the people who run the streets in Tonawanda. Go talk to county executive polling cars. How do we put together a snow plowing plan? It starts with caring about snow plowing, knowing that there's consequences to not snow plowing, but wanting to get the job done for your community. This is something we know how to do, but City Hall doesn't seem to have a will to serve the people of the city of Buffalo. That will change when I'm mayor.
So I'm not going to presume to be an expert at snow removal, though I did used to ride around in a snowplow. My dad was the head of superintendent of roads in Harbor Creek. But I do know enough that, and have done a lot with my contracting work and with youth work, that I know that it really comes down to culture and training and discipline. And there are people that I've already spoken to that are retired public works folks that are eager to consult with the city and solve the problems and deal with the issues and transfer education, training, and a cultural transformation at City Hall to help public works staff to raise the bar for them, to help them do their job better. We also have to have a plan for how to deal with cars. Because the biggest impediment that we have in the city of Buffalo that they don't have in Kenmore and Tonawanda is a large number of cars on the streets. And we have to figure out a best practice and best plan for how we can make sure that cars are out of the way so that we can best get plows on our city streets. That's one thing. That's about discipline, that's about training, that's just administrative work. I'm not the expert, but we'll have experts at the table to make sure it happens. The second thing is really about equity. And I need to talk about and expand on just streets, because we always think about snow plowing when we think about cars. And I don't think about cars. I think about people walking. I think about our kids getting to school and getting to the school bus stop. I think about our elderly that are landlocked in the winter and our disabled folks that can't get around because they can't access our sidewalks. It's unacceptable to me. On the east side of Buffalo, there are 7,000 vacant lots owned by the city of Buffalo. They don't maintain the sidewalks in front of their vacant lots. They make sidewalks inaccessible to hundreds and thousands of people, and it will not continue. We will have a plan for a municipal sidewalk removal program so that people can get to their doctor's appointments, so that kids can get to their bus stops, and elderly people can get to the grocery store in inclement weather. And we're going to happen in our first winter here in Buffalo. Thank you.
Our next question will start off with Sean. This is a transformational project seems to be a big topic in this election year. As communities that have suffered from harmful health effects and having boundaries outlined with two major highways, the 198 and the 190, coupled with the economic impact both of these highways have had on our small businesses since the commercial corridors are now bypassed by travelers. The regional central plan completed by the Greater Buffalo Niagara Regional Transportation Council is of significance to the side of the city. Recently, the DOT has proposed downgrading this project and pulled funding that has been in place for several years to do the environmental studies needed to get the project moving forward. Do you support the GB and RTC community-driven plans for restoring the Sejaquara Parkway? If so, do you plan to assist with preventing this from getting shelled? If not, why and what would you do to propose to address the health, environmental, and economic damage done to these neighborhoods? And with this idea, we would like to also tie into the 33, so we can wrap it all in one.
Sure. I mean, highway modernization was not good for the city of Buffalo. You know, the 190, Riverside Park used to be a Riverside Park. Now it's a park that's adjacent to a highway. The 198 used to be a carriage road through the park. It got turned into a highway. And the biggest sin is the 33. The 33 was built on Buffalo's grandest parkway. The Humboldt Parkway was grander than Chapin, grander and longer than Lincoln. And our forefathers decided it was a good idea to pay over all those things. So cities around New York State are struggling with these issues. They're trying to come up with plans. But these plans in Rochester, Syracuse, and Albany, they're being driven by the city. The city of Buffalo is playing ostrich with its head in the sand. They were not at the table for the 198. They were not at the table for the 33. And you can't even get them near a conversation about the 190. But the city of Buffalo has to be what we call the lead agent. That's not just at the table, but at the head of the table. That's what they're doing in Rochester with their inner loop. I took a group from Buffalo to see what they're doing in the inner loop. DOT was at that meeting, but they weren't running the meeting. The city of Rochester was running the meeting because they dictated what was happening on that project. You know, we need to restore our parkways. 198 should not be cutting through Black Rock the way it does. It's a highway that barely anyone uses. We have a plan to get rid of the whole viaduct going from the 190 all the way down to the park. We can do it, but we need a will to do it. But the biggest impediment to all the projects we've tried to get done is the city of Buffalo will not provide leadership. But under my watch, we'll be at the head of the table.
Well, for the last 2 years, I've been organizing with Eastside Parkways Coalition, a group of community residents, residents along the Humboldt Parkway, to basically sue the DOT and compel them to follow state environmental law. They violated state environmental law. They thought they could get away with an environmental assessment. They did not do a full environmental impact statement. And what that has done is set us back as a region, because, you know, we really are focused now at Eastside Parkways about the right project right now for our communities. And what does that look like? I have my own opinions, but I do believe that what we need to do is have a comprehensive analysis, a comprehensive traffic analysis of this region that includes, sure, throw in the 192, but definitely the 198 and the 33 highway. I got involved in this issue, yes, because of the environmental and the health impacts, and because I know that the detrimental impact that that 33 highway and the 198 have on human life, on human health. But for me, removing 2 urban highways is an economic, long-term City of Buffalo visionary statement. We remove 2 highways because it would be a transformation for our commercial corridors, putting cars back onto the streets. Now, albeit, it will be with technological innovation. There will be synchronized lighting. There will be accommodations for bike lanes. We were going to plant thousands of trees. We're going to have more green space along those corridors. But what it's going to do is reinvigorate our commercial corridors. Genesee Street, Sycamore, Broadway, Niagara, they are going to be transformed, Jefferson, Fillmore, by having more cars on those streets that are going to patronize our businesses and support our city businesses and bring more people to our cities. This is an economic issue. This is a health issue. We're going to get it right by studying this transportation plan and making it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree 100% with Mr. Gaynor. I too support the full restoration of Humboldt Parkway and the 198. I believe, again, it's the biggest economic development plan we have before us in the City of Buffalo. It not only reinvigorates that corridor, but it also reinvigorates all of the other arterials that were once used to transverse from, the suburbs and back and forth in Buffalo. I believe that we have to think big. We have to think ahead. We have to be mindful of the damage and the harm that these roadways have done to the people who live next to them across this city. People have died and have lived lives without health and without well-being. They've lost their generational wealth. This is a problem, and it's one that I fully support. Again, the restoration of these parkways, and I think it's even bigger than that. I think when you look at this project, what it does is it reminds me of all the other mistakes, all the other times that leadership has failed in the City of Buffalo. When we talk about the stadium, again, not to keep bringing these things up, but you have to connect the dots. The stadium going to Orchard Park, nobody in the city fought for that. UP going out to Amherst. These are generational issues that we're facing, and we have to tie them all together. We have to understand the same people that made those decisions are still making them today. And if you elect people who are supported by them, then you're going to get the same thing going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will be going to start with Michael. This question is, the North District has some of the oldest housing stock in the city. And as seen here in other parts of the city, many of these older buildings are deteriorating due to neglect by slumlords or limited finances for homeowners on fixed income. What will your administration do to improve the livability of housing for renters as well as homeowners? And what measures would you take to facilitate changes in housing inspections, housing court systems in order to make blatantly irresponsible property owners more accountable and keep up their properties?
So again, this comes down to engaging our communities and engaging current tools and engaging current financing tools that we have available. When I first came to Buffalo, there was a program called Housing Court Liaisons. It was a program through the housing court where there were people from the local community that were connected with the courts that could help facilitate, particularly because a lot of the people that are in housing court are lower income or fixed income homeowners. To be perfectly honest, the majority of them are people of color from the east side, from the north side, and from the west sides that didn't have access to resources. So the housing court liaisons were able to kind of bridge the gap. My administration is going to have something called CAPS. They're Community Action Planning Boards. And they're going to be, it's very, very similar to what's actually happening right here in Amherst, on Amherst Street, to be honest with you, with Black Rock Riverside. Black Rock Riverside Alliance is a community planning board. But they're going to have more teeth, because what we're going to do is we're going to partner them with people from the Division of Planning and Economic Development. And what we're going to do is use those planning boards to engage neighborhoods and engage communities. And that is how we're going to direct our planning efforts and our enforcement efforts at the City Hall. So a big problem that I see is that we're not engaging neighborhoods enough. And there's not enough communication and transparency between City Hall and our neighborhoods. And this program, our CAPS program.
So I think that one of the things that I would do in terms of housing and that is to make sure that we have everybody at the table. Not just the residents, but people like the other candidates, the other politicians in that. They don't work together in Buffalo. They have not worked together in our region. And so we need leadership that brings people together. You have people that don't even speak to each other. You know, we had these spats between the county executive and the mayor. All these kinds of things that go on, these personal things. We need leadership that looks beyond personalities, that is willing to sit down at the table. I think these issues are bigger than any one of us. All of us ought to acknowledge that none of us have, 100% of the answer. We have our opinions, we have our thoughts. Some of them good and some of them not so good. But when we put them together and we leverage them, I think that's where we find success at. That's what I would do as mayor. Looking forward to doing that. We have examples where we used resources within the Buffalo Fire Department, within the city of Buffalo. We use them creatively. We have a number of persons in the city of Buffalo that can be trained as inspectors and different things like that. So we have to do a better job as managers in the city of Buffalo, using the workforce to get these things done, to have lead inspections. First responders have unfettered access to homes within this community, are well positioned to identify issues and to report out on them and even to mitigate them. We did that in the Buffalo Fire Department. We'll do that with the rest of the workforce in the city of Buffalo.
Buffalo has some of the oldest housing stock in the country, but they also have some of the worst code compliance in the country. You know, forever, the city of Buffalo, they just didn't care about code compliance. And often, you try to get code compliance done, but it turns out the person who owns the building is friends with the mayor or friends with somebody else, and suddenly the code compliance doesn't work. So this is the idea of an accessible government that treats everyone fairly. Code compliance, you can't get more basic than that. So to fix the basics, you have to make it so if you call codes, they come and inspect. And they write you up no matter who you are. But we also have to have something more than a complaint-driven process. My mom got written up once for a disconnected downspout. The inspector came and she said, "Did you happen to see the house 4 doors down? There's no roof on it." And the inspector said, "I didn't get a call on that." So they let the neighborhood decay, and all around us we have solid neighborhoods. I was walking the other day across from ECMC. Great block, except one house. Everyone on the block knew that house, owned by absentee owner, peeling paint, bad windows, high lawn. I asked the neighbors, "Well, have you called the city?" They said, "I've called 311 till my finger falls off." No one does anything. But you have to hold everyone to the same standard. You can't let either in-town or out-of-town voters, it doesn't matter to me, have their way with communities. We have to make sure that everyone lives in good housing, but we also have to make sure that investors who come in, your goal is to extract money from our neighborhood, that they are held to the same standard as everybody else. And that's what we got to do if we want to keep our neighborhoods from going further down.
Our next question, we'll start with Garnell. Small businesses and community-based organizations are the backbone of the city because they've made many decisions to invest in being part of the city. What will your administration do to support these businesses, ensure that City Hall spending stays inside city limits as much as possible when awarding contracts and making purchases, and with supporting our middle class?
Yeah, I think small businesses are certainly the lifeblood of our community, of all communities in America, and they need to be supported. I think that in the city of Buffalo, there's so much red tape. It's so hard to navigate all of the red tape in City Hall, all of the processes in City Hall, that it discourages a lot of people, and it renders them impotent, actually, as small business owners. The frustration, the lack of support, it drives businesses out of the city of Buffalo. We have to create an environment that's conducive to their growth, where they know that they are prioritized by the city of Buffalo, by the administration, and we can do that. There's all kinds of programs available to support them. Again, we have to look to do that rather than the developers. I mean, we always focus on the larger developers and the larger businesses, and we forget about the people that actually drive progress and drive prosperity within our communities. It is the small businesses. We have to do a better job of doing that, making funds available to them, providing liaisons to help them navigate the grant applications and all the kinds of things that are available to them. Again, putting persons out in the community, meeting people where they are, going to these businesses, helping them to navigate all of the different processes, I think is going to be very helpful for them going forward.
So I talk to small businesses all the time. I'm the chair of the Small Business and Economic Development Committee in the Senate. And anytime I talk to local businesses, I ask them, what was it like opening? And they all say the same thing, nightmare. I'm in City Hall, I'm in the elevators, I'm going up, I'm going down. I'm going from one department to the next. Then they send me back to another department. I'm talking small businesses. Recently met a woman who has a bookstore on Grant Street, and I looked at the bookstore and I thought, well, how hard could this have been? She said, oh, I had to get a new heating system, and I had to do plumbing work. And those are different departments in the city of Buffalo. She said, this is it for me. I have one little business. She said she spent 4 full days in the city of Buffalo over a period of several months trying to figure out how it works. I've launched a plan about how to make small businesses at City Hall work better together, and I'm going to have a liaison. Anytime a small business comes into the city of Buffalo to apply for a permit, they're going to be handed a liaison. They're going to give that liaison's phone number, and that liaison is going to help them get through the city red tape. Because small businesses, they don't have the time and the money to go through the red tape. And we see it all the time. I recently held a press conference. A person who owns a downtown brewery came, another small business owner came, and they all reported the exact same thing. Up and down, took way too long, and it cost too much money. We're gonna have a liaison assigned. Everybody will be able to quickly get through City Hall, but we gotta make it our business to make it easier to open a business in Buffalo. It seems right now our business is to torture people who want to open city of Buffalo businesses. We need a new direction, and that's what I'm going to deliver.
I've been a small business owner in the city of Buffalo for 20 years. I know it's a lot of work. And I've dealt with every department in the city of Buffalo. And yes, it is challenging doing business in New York State. And I think having that experience and having that perspective gives me a unique perspective on how to support and how to support small business. But the biggest challenge, and I want to use this opportunity to talk about, the biggest challenge as a small business owner is workforce development, is having people that are ready to work and are going to show up and are going to be there every day to get the job done. Like, that's what we need to do. And we haven't had any questions about education, so I'm going to talk about a program that we're going to launch in my first year as mayor is called City Action Corps. And it's going to be specifically focused on training and mentoring and building skills and work readiness for the out-of-school and underemployed youth population. And it is a huge population in the city of Buffalo. When I came to Buffalo, 50% of kids didn't finish school, didn't finish high school. Today, I think there's a little number fudging, but there's still, by the city of Buffalo's, the Buffalo Public Schools' own admission, a 78% completion rate. That means we're losing hundreds of kids every year. They're on the streets. We talk about public safety. We talk about community safety. They're on their streets without a place to plug in, without a positive direction, and without a purpose. And what City Action Corps will do is give these young people a purpose. It's going to give them job readiness skills, and it's going to help them over a year-long program, all right, to be work ready. And that is going to be a huge support to our small businesses, because after they graduate from that year-long program, we're going to place them in small businesses and union apprenticeship programs and Northland Training Corridor programs and ECC programs, and some of them may even go off to college. But they have to be surrounded by mentors. They have to be surrounded by work and readiness programs and educational programs, and they have to have a path to accessing their next step. And that's what City Action Corps will deliver. Thank you.
Our next question will be to Sean to start. Houselessness is becoming an epidemic nationally, and Buffalo is not immune. More and more unhoused people are being seen filling our existing shelters, and now that the weather is warmer, filling our parks, underpasses, alleyways. If you're elected mayor, what is your plan to combat the often complex issues that wrapped around houselessness, and what will you do to address this overwhelming need for quality, affordable housing?
Sure, my housing plan, touches on all these things. So we have more unhoused people in Buffalo, now than ever, but it's because we demolished our housing stock. At some point, the people in City Hall thought Buffalo was going to continue to shrink and shrink and shrink. So every year, they demolished houses. At one point, City Hall bragged that they demolished 5,000 houses in 5 years. Boy, we wish we had all that housing back. Because what went with all that housing is all the affordable 2 units, all the affordable doubles. We were a better community when we had some extra housing stock. In the last 10 years, our population went up 10,000. Not 10,000 households, just 10,000 people. And that has put such a strain on our marketplace that suddenly houses in Buffalo are going for over $200,000, and rent of over $1,000 is becoming the norm. So my plan will get 4,000 new units online, quick and cheap, help people build generational wealth, help seniors provide more affordable options, and then the plan of building the new homes. We want to be able to get to a scale of 200 houses. Once we scale 200, then we can get to 1,000. But we got to keep it going. I've got 2 years of funding of $170 million. I'm proud about that. But that's a drop in the bucket of what we need to counteract the damage that we have done. Once we get more housing stock up, then you will see the homelessness problem recede. Because as always with homeless, the visible homeless is not the true numbers. The invisible homeless are the families who are doubled up and the families who are being housed in hotels. We got to build a lot of homes.
I agree with the need for more housing. I think that there's a lot of room for innovation and creativity on how do we utilize now available units that may need some rehab, now available commercial spaces. I think that there's a lot of innovation, a lot of creativity that can go there. But I want to talk about something a little bit different that is immediately relevant to this topic, which is mental health and crisis support services. Because there are a lot of people that are on the streets that could potentially access, but don't because of mental health struggles. And I was very encouraged to read in the newspaper today about Best Self's Crisis Response Center that they're going to be building on Niagara Street. And that's going to be a 24/7 crisis response center for people that are struggling with substance abuse and struggling with mental health abuse. Because right now, a lot of people, and I'll be honest with you, I met a lot of these folks on the streets petitioning. I met them on the buses and on the trains and talking to folks and hearing about their struggles. And a lot of times it's either shame or individual struggle or an inability to access programs. And what we need are people that are on the streets, that are connecting with these folks, that connect them with resources and housing resources that exist. Because there are housing resources that exist. The problem is that there's a lot of challenges that people struggle with on a daily life out on the street. And a lot of times just having a human being that's interacting with them. And I actually have a plan, I have lots of plans, to have street workers that are actually with backpacks, that are dealing with substance abuse, that are dealing with mental health services, that are dealing with kids that are on the streets, that are dealing with families that are homeless, that are trying just to create a human connection with them that can connect them to available resources.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, we spend a lot of time treating symptoms rather than curing the cause of the symptoms. We spend a lot of time trying to address people's reaction to stimuli, whether it be stress or whatever it is, rather than address the thing that's causing their issues. You know, we talk about the homeless, there's a burgeoning homeless population. Some of these people just can't afford the rents that have been, you know, escalated, that have been raised. I think we should adopt good cause eviction policy in the city of Buffalo. Rochester has it, Syracuse, other cities have it. I think we should adopt that and protect persons so that they're not forced out of their home. A lot of the development we're talking about, a lot of these ideas are the cause of homelessness also, because they displace people. We need to have development that does not displace those that are already here. You know, we have these mental health issues, we have all of these other things going on. What is causing these stressors? And much of it is caused by a society that does not treat them fairly from the beginning, that does not you know, support them, does not educate them. So, you know, we talked about education. All of these things are connected. We have to have a holistic plan, a plan that's inclusive of all of these things, that we educate our children. You talked about educating people who are out of school. What about the kids that are in school? What about educating? What about fixing our school system? What about an administration that supports our children while they're in school and making sure that they're educated and taken care of? We have to do better. I think we can do that. I look forward to doing that as your mayor.
Thank you. Our next question will be to Michael to start. And this is a big one. Balancing the budget. Where do you see the cuts should come from the city to reduce it, and what cuts are they? And what is your experience with budget balancing?
Well, I do it every day. I spend a lot of my time chasing money as a business owner. So I know that there's a lot of challenges at the city, and I've had a lot of experience building budgets. I've grown organizations from the ground up. Buffalo Reuse, we started with 2 volunteers. Within 2 years, we had 20 staff members. Reuse Action has 20 employees currently. You just add zeros, folks, but it really comes down to discipline. And we set a budget every year, and we work on a budget collectively. That budget should have the input of communities. It should have the input of all of our directors and all of our commissioners. And then we approve that budget, and my expectation of those department heads and those commissioners is that they hold the line on those budgets. The biggest challenge with our fiscal crisis right now is that we have had no discipline at the City of Buffalo in holding the line on our budget. You can't budget $12 million for overtime and spend $20 million consistently year after year after year and expect that it's just going to all be okay. And we're not looking at huge, yes, there was a storm in 2022. There was no other snow that winter, okay? So yes, we have challenges that require attention and attention to detail, but what we need is discipline. And then we need some creativity, and we need to think outside of the box about how we do more with less. Because I'm going to tell you, there's going to be less. There's not going to be a state bailout in the next 4 years. There's not going to be a federal bailout. So how do we accomplish what we need to do with the staff that we need to do it in the most efficient, cost-effective, and creative ways? That's what I've been doing for 20 years, solving problems as a bootstrapper, as someone that's being creative in our neighborhoods to get things done.
Thank you. So I've managed budgets, fire department, Buffalo Fire Department, over $60 million annually, over 800 personnel, millions of dollars in state and federal grants procured by myself and administrated by myself. That's my experience with budgeting. I know how to budget, I know how to manage. I've had to manage budgets, I've had to manage people, I've had to manage crises, and I've had to manage politicians. The latter being the harder. So that's my experience with managing this. Listen, this is, again, mismanagement 101. That's all it is. We have sufficient resources to provide services to this community. They're being mismanaged. You talk about overtime in that. I mean, we can have a detailed discussion about that. I know about overtime. I managed it for 20 years, okay? I know how to do that. This is not, again, rocket science. We cannot keep reinventing the wheel. We cannot. Inexperience is not an excuse, okay? And the truth of the matter is that nobody running for mayor has a clue about how to manage these departments. I'm the only one that has experience doing it, and I've done it very successfully. And so I believe that experience matters. I believe that going forward, unless we have experienced people sitting across the table negotiating these contracts and that with these unions and that, then we're going to end up in the same place. The contracts are due in the city of Buffalo for police and fire. Why would we have an interim mayor who is seeking their endorsement and fulfilling those contracts, negotiating those contracts? I believe there should be a moratorium on those until we elect a duly elected mayor, and then we move forward. That would be my suggestion on that.
So the city of Buffalo hasn't had a balanced budget in 10 years. Each year, they come up with different gimmicks. So what they say at the start of the budget year isn't the same at the end of it. And the gimmicks kept going on, the debt kept getting deeper. We don't know what our deficit is, because no one from City Hall has come clean about how deep it is. But the number one rule of when you're in a hole is you stop digging. And right now, the budget that was put forward is an election year budget. It's not going to be balanced. It relies on gimmicks again. We're going to sell parking ramps to ourselves, and ourselves are going to pay into the city. It makes no sense. So the parking ramps generate $5 million a year. The last thing you want to do is sell them. You need to bring in the state comptroller, Tom DiNapoli, to help us do a soup to nuts, A to Z review. Figure out what is our projected debt over the next 3 to 4 years, and then bite the bullet and take that debt and restructure it so we can work with the control board, pay that back at a lower interest rate over a number of years, and at the same time, there's going to have to be moderate but consistent tax increases. Buffalo's in this jam because they went 10 years without raising taxes. Of course they're in a budget hole. The last time we had a balanced budget in the city was when the control board was here. But the city went through that. They took all the money that was in reserve funds, spent that down, took $300 million of federal money, closed 3 years of budget gaps with this. So we need to have a real plan on how to balance our budget. I have the experience. I worked in the county after the red-green budget. We put that in shape every year. I help manage a $250 billion budget in New York State. And I'm going to bring that experiences and the resources from being in New York State government back to Buffalo because we're not going to be able to get out of this alone.
Question two. This one is, what plan do you have to address the issues of domestic violence, opioid epidemic, and the rise of overdose and deaths in the city? And they are related in many ways from domestic violence because drugs is remain tied to it.
Yeah, so thank you. As Commissioner of Fire, I introduced Narcan in the city of Buffalo and made sure that it was available on every fire apparatus in the city of Buffalo. We saved many, many lives by doing that. We trained the fire department to respond to these kinds of emergencies. We connected with other departments, with hospitals, with doctors and others to make sure that we were providing, appropriate care for persons within this community. These are issues that I think are best handled in many cases by, non-emergent personnel. I'm a proponent of creating community response teams and training them to be able to respond to non-violent issues within the city of Buffalo. I think that that's something that would be very helpful in terms of mitigating these issues. We have community members who are responding to the needs of their community. They're trusted messengers, and I think they have access to the families and to persons within the community and are able to mitigate and hopefully prevent many of these things from happening. I partnered with outside agencies, whether it's the cancer, American Cancer Society, with the deaf community and others, New Americans and others, to address these kinds of issues in an empathetic way. I think that training is important for the first response community in Buffalo, but I also think building it out and not using police officers and others to respond to these kinds of incidences unnecessarily will also help in terms of budgeting, in terms of making them available for more emergent calls. So I think that we have to have a plan that is holistic and deals with all of these things, in partnership with other agencies.
Sure. On the domestic violence front, every police officer needs to be trained in how to handle domestic violence calls, how to spot domestic violence calls, what to do when they show up at a house and the victim suddenly says, everything's okay, but that victim is under threat. We have to make sure that we have just top flight responders working with community response teams to make sure that there are social workers also going to those calls. And we have to aggressively use the tools that New York State has given to remove firearms from a house where there's domestic violence going on. A woman who's being subjected to domestic violence whose partner has a firearm, her risk of mortality is so much higher. So we have a tool called the Extreme Risk Protection Order, where if there's domestic violence occurring in that household and the abuser has access to a firearm, we can seek a court order and remove the firearms from those houses. That's how we save women's lives, but we have to make it a focus, and it'll be a focus of my administration's public safety campaign, is to make sure that victims of domestic violence are treated fairly and that we avoid deaths because we didn't act to take firearms out of those households, and I will definitely work to take firearms out of those households.
I support all the actions that they've already spoken about. The community responder program, I think, is a huge tool for helping to relieve some of the burden of our law enforcement teams and also get the right type of response for the crisis that is existing. But I want to talk about something a little bit different that I think when Garnell referred to root causes. When we look at increasing rates of drug use, and we look at opiate use, and we look at violence, and we look at criminality, and we look at depression and anxiety, even amongst our children, we have to ask the question, why are we experiencing this as a culture? What have we lost? What are we missing? And I keep coming back to community because it's where I've been rooted since I've been and showed up here in Buffalo. Every effort that I initiated with an amazing team of folks was rooted in community, in the East Side community, in the small business community, in our neighborhood communities. We have to create opportunities to bring people together, to create more connection. I always bring up Delavan Grider Community Center because I've been meeting there for the last 2 years, and I have to say that if you haven't been there, it's probably one of the most inspiring community centers in the city. Because on any night, there are probably 6 or 7 different groups of people meeting there. Kids playing sports, parent groups, support groups, housing groups, funding and financing groups. This is the type of activity and the type of cultural hub that we need in every neighborhood in this city. We need to create connection. We have to create purpose. We have to give people the feeling that they're not alone, that there are other people that are struggling with the same things, that have the same hopes and desires, and that want the same things, which is healthy, safe communities where their kids and their families can live a healthy and safe life.
Thank you. We have 2 more questions for this evening before we do our closing statements. This next question will start with Sean. Many people in Buffalo have lived in public housing, been taught in public schools, lived their entire world in Buffalo. How do we keep supporting, how do we help and support them during this economy when to get to the middle class, it's harder and harder every day? How do we support our people who are in the public housing and trying their best to survive in the city?
So my first home was in public housing. That's where I first lived. But what we have in Buffalo, which changed is so much. You know, in my lifetime, the biggest problem we have is unemployment. You know, there weren't enough jobs in the city of Buffalo. But as our economy has changed, jobs have returned to Buffalo, but the jobs aren't quality jobs where you can work 40 hours and keep a roof over your head, take your kids on a vacation. So we need to make sure that when we do economic development activity, you know, we don't fall for these bad deals like Tesla. You know, Tesla was supposed to have all this promise, but right now Tesla pays below the average industrial wage in the city of Buffalo. So we gave a company $1 billion to come to Buffalo to pay a below average wage. So the biggest challenge we have right now is the lack of quality jobs. A majority of people in Buffalo who live in poverty, there's 40 hours of work being done at their household. You know, that violates everything that we were taught, right? If you get up every day, you go to work, you're gonna be able to take care of yourself and your family. You know, that deal's been broken. We need to get back to it, but we also have to work on programs that allow, you know, mostly, you know, women who are working full-time, living in poverty with children. We have to devise programs to allow them to go into higher wage jobs. You know, they have the skills, they can do it, but they need to have the scaffolding to make sure when they take that risk of going into a new job, that if things go bad, they don't plummet, you know, to the bottom. So we need to make sure we keep bringing quality jobs to Buffalo, because economic development doesn't work if we're just delivering substandard jobs.
I think I'll continue a little bit with my last thought and my last question, which comes back to community, but it also talks about education. And education, when we get down to the root cause, is really what all of this comes down to. We talked about this evening illegal dumping and trash all over our city. You know, we talked about small businesses and we talked about building community, and it's like, I always come back to our kids because, you know, I think as an educational ecosystem, we're failing. One of the shortest paths to help a kid finish school is giving them access to education earlier and educational support, right? So having universal pre-K programs, or having community programs, or having access to healthy play spaces and green spaces. Like, you shouldn't have to walk a half an hour. You shouldn't have to get on a bus or a train to go to a playground. So, like, all of these things contribute to quality of life. And there are answers for all of those things. These aren't pie in the sky dreams. These are things that we can attain and what we can achieve when we have a vision for these things. When we make these things a funding priority, and when we leverage tools and resources to make it happen. When we leverage our vacant lots to create community gardens and green spaces and play spaces to bring people together. When we hire and recruit a superintendent for our public schools that's willing to think outside of the box, that's willing to leverage the resources of Erie One BOCES to bring quality technical education to the schools in the city of Buffalo, that's willing to think more creatively about play and creativity in our education, that's not just not just beholden to state standards as the only criteria for a healthy, educated child. So it is a big picture, and that is what my administration and that's what my vision is all about, is how to connect these dots and how to bring healthy, livable, educated communities to every neighborhood and every corner of the city.
Yeah, thank you. Again, I agree with what's been said up here. Education is certainly an important aspect of this economic development plan. And that economic development plan has to include all of these things. We cannot continue to work on these projects in silos, some housing here maybe, and something over here. We have to connect all of these things. Education is going to drive economic development. Many people do not live in the city because their kids cannot be educated in Buffalo public schools. We have to fix the schools. You have to have leadership, in the mayor's office that works with the Board of Education to do that. When you have schools that educate children, families come. When families come, businesses come. And you are creating a workforce that is able to, work in these skilled jobs. Also, Buffalo is an international city. We're sitting on a border, on an international border. You understand how much commerce comes out of Canada every year? We should be working with them. We should be partnering with them. We should be working across the border to make sure that they are investing in our community, that they're bringing jobs and those kinds of things here. We need a larger vision. We need a bigger economic plan than just thinking about, what we can do internally. We have to attract others from outside, and we can do that. I look forward to doing that.
Thank you. Our last question this evening will be, Olmsted parks are nicely maintained. City parks are not. How would you and your administration expand the educational process for the employees of the parks to compete against the Olmsted look and having our parks a place to go instead of just cutting grass and weed whacking? Michael.
So, City Action Corps crews are going to be activated in every neighborhood in this city. We're going to start with 5 crews in our first year, and we're going to pilot the program, but within 5 years, we'll have 25 youth crews, ages 18 to 28, active in our neighborhoods, and they're going to have skills, and they're going to have a purpose, and they're going to want to contribute, because I've done this work. I've worked with Youth Corps programs all over this country. I've worked with kids that are out of school and underemployed. And I've worked with young people that are hungry for a purpose, and they're hungry to have a network of support and work that makes a difference in the lives of their community. And we can do that. We can do that here in Buffalo. We can remove 2 highways and restore a Frederick Law Olmsted landscape treasure that will bring more tourism to this city, that makes the Albright Knox pale, because people will come all over the world to see a completely restored and intact landscape treasure here that doesn't have 2 highways running through it, and it'll be maintained by our community members. Those young people will get educational support. They will go on to jobs and technical training programs that bring more purpose and economic vitality to their lives. And that's how we think big, and that's how we connect the dots, and that's how we improve the quality of life in every neighborhood.
Yeah, I think, again, I agree with what Michael said. We have to integrate all of these things into our educational system. make our children available for these opportunities. I think that we have resources all around us that we're not tapping into, that we're not using. So these parks present opportunities for us to grow, to educate, and to learn, and to come together as community, and to appreciate and to treasure these assets that are in Buffalo. They're very marketable. We just don't take them. We don't see them as assets. We see them as problems. We see that, cutting the grass. Oh, we got to cut the grass again. They do it intermittently, if at all. We have to understand that these are assets. These are things that are jewels. These are things that a lot of people wish they had. And we have those things in Buffalo. We take them for granted. I think we have to have leadership that understands that these are part of our assets. These are things that make us what we are. They make us unique as a community. Depending on where you live in the city, grass gets cut. Depending on where you live, you have access to green spaces. We have to do this across the city. We have to understand that everybody deserves to look like Chapin Parkway. All of our communities deserve to look nice and to be, taken care of. We can do that. I think we should partner with the community groups who are doing great work within their communities, but they need our support. We can work with them and help them scale programs that are existing already within those communities. And as mayor, I think that I would look to do that. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Again, we have people who are invested in their communities and want to see quality of life issues addressed. And if we work with them and partner with them, I think we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, the city of Buffalo views its parks and its playgrounds and its community centers as liabilities. They don't invest in them. Homestead Parks will tell you the biggest challenge they have is dealing with the city of Buffalo. Every year they squeeze them more and more to make it so they can barely, do their jobs. Go to South Park in South Buffalo. Go around Riverside Park. I don't view those parks as being completely funded and being used to their best of the abilities. Our pools aren't open year after year. I just partnered with Councilmember Golombek to bring money to reopen the splash pad at Riverside Park that had been closed for years. The pool nearest to my house, the Asrisi Matter Community Center, this is its 5th year it won't be open. They still can't seem to hire lifeguards, but it's just a lack of commitment. I've helped fund and put together several playgrounds since I've been in office, but each time we're able to get it done because we did it on land owned by a nonprofit. If we had to go through the city, it would never have got done. We've been working for several years on a project at Niagara and Lafayette to make it a pocket park. We put the money forward several years ago. It's still the same. Nothing's happening there because the city doesn't want to spend the money. They'll say, well, if we put that park in, it's going to cost us money to mow it, so we're not going to do it. There's a multi-acre land on Massachusetts Avenue that's the city just sort of mows it, but there's no programmed park there. So if we want to grow our communities, we have to reinvest in our parks. And we failed on almost every count on that, whether it's a park, a playground, a pool, or a community center. We need change.
Thank you. Thank you all for your responses to the question. We'll begin closing statements with Michael Greener.
So I am very excited about being here tonight and for the opportunity to speak with you all. And I'm very excited about the next chapter for the city of Buffalo because I see so much promise and so much potential. What I've seen over the last 20 years is just a lack of vision, a lack of action, and a lack of movement and leadership that can help to get things done. So I ran for mayor because of that frustration. I've had so many opportunities to initiate the programs, many of them that I started about, but had the door slammed in my face by city government, elected officials. And I am in an opportunity, and a unique opportunity as an entrepreneur, as someone that can run and start businesses, and that has a passionate and care for our communities and each of them, to start a new chapter for Buffalo that leverages the great things that we have here to really transform neighborhoods. And it's about inspiring the people that are already here. There's so many people over the last 3 months that I've spoken to that want to be engaged, that want to be involved in solving our problems, but are on the outside looking in. We have to change that feeling. Our residents shouldn't feel like they're on the outside looking in. They should feel part of the process. They should feel engaged. They should feel seen, respected, heard. Like, that is the type of energy, that is the type of momentum that we create when we acknowledge and we appreciate and we embrace the resources that are in the city to do great things. And then we're going to grow our city. We're going to start what's called the MET. It's marketing, entrepreneurship, and tourism. And we're going to bring more people to the city of Buffalo. 9 million people drive by the city of Buffalo every day to go to Niagara Falls. We're going to get half of those folks to stop in the city of Buffalo, enjoy our restaurants, enjoy our waterfront, support our businesses, and think about the prospect of moving and starting a business and investing right here in the city of Buffalo. Thank you.
Sean Ryan.
So my dad was a Buffalo firefighter. My mom was a teacher. I became a lawyer, and I spent my career working with people facing illegal evictions, people facing illegal foreclosures, and representing victims of housing discrimination. I took that work with me when I became elected to the State Assembly and to the State Senate. And I worked on issues like preventing childhood lead paint poisoning, making sure we have clean water and that our sewers don't dump into our rivers, and the housing plan that we've been talking about. I'm going to take that experience, that can-do, and that know-how into City Hall. And when I'm in City Hall, we're going to fix the basics. We're going to plow our streets, we're going to fix our potholes, we're going to open our community centers, and we're going to take on the tough issues. I've got the experience, I've got the track record, I know how to get it done. I'm endorsed by the Erie County Democratic Committee. I'm endorsed by Senator April Baskin. I'm endorsed by County Executive Mark Polenkars, and we're all going to work together to build the better Buffalo that we all richly deserve.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here this evening, again, for the opportunity to meet and speak with you. Listen, you heard a lot about endorsements, okay? You heard a lot about that. I'm a Democrat, member of the Democratic Party, been one my entire life. This process has been undemocratic at best, and I'm, whoever is behind the candidate is who they're going to work for. So you need to look beyond what you see up here and see who's behind it, because that's who they're going to support, that's who they're going to work for, that's who they're going to be loyal to, and that's the truth of the matter. When you look at the amount of money that's poured into this campaign and who's supporting, talking about endorsements and all of that, I don't think that that is equivalent to change. I think that if you look at who's endorsing these candidates and who's behind them, I think you'll see the same old same old. You'll see what you've always seen. And I think that you're going to get what you've always got. That's the truth of the matter. You need somebody that's independent, that is not encumbered with owing, being indebted to all these different entities. You need somebody who's going to fight for you and deliver for you. Somebody who is unafraid to speak truth to power, to speak the truth, and to say that I don't know, I don't have the answer, but together we will get the answer. I don't pretend to have all of the answers, but I know that the answers are there, and I know that if you are invited in, and if you're allowed to participate fully in the process, that we can solve the issues that are in our community. So I stand on my legacy, on my work, and listen, I'm here to represent you, I'm here to work for you, and no one else. Thank you.
Thank you for turning to the lead for help with this evening's candidate forum. Let's show the candidates the appreciation for this participation with a loud round of applause. If you have moved since the last time you voted, you need to register again. Tomorrow's the last day to re-register before the primary. There are registration forms here for tonight for you, or for anybody who needs to register. There will be a televised candidate debate on WKBW TV Channel 7 on Tuesday, June 17th. It will be a 1-hour event. The candidate for the Democratic Party will be chosen by the results of the primary on June 24th. Early voting begins tomorrow, June 14th through Sunday, June 22nd. For early voting, you may vote in any of the locations in Erie County. On election day, you must vote in your voting district. The polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. on election primary day. Remember to vote in general election on November 4th, 2024, with early voting from October 24th to November 2nd. And thank you, and Ann will finish it.
Thank you. Can we have one more round of applause for our candidates, please? And one for all of you who submitted questions, who asked thoughtful and provocative, presented thoughtful and provocative ideas and needs of our community to these candidates today. It was a great opportunity and we really appreciate it. And I think the questions really reflected some of the issues that are specific to the North District. A special thanks to the American Legion Post for hosting us tonight. It's a great venue and we really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And to Sportsman's Tavern for taking care of the sound equipment, even though there were a couple of glitches early on, they took good care of it afterwards.
It was my fault.
And hooked us up with video for tonight as well. We will be posting the video on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and the link will be on our website. And again, special thanks to the League of Women Voters for doing a magnificent job of fielding questions, moderating the event, and keeping everybody on time. I was impressed. Thank you.